So for those of you that have seen the Tony Robbins thing, I only just saw it recently. Everyone had been telling me about it, and I watched it a few times. And I want to just share what I think partly why there was such a misunderstanding between Tony and the woman, and now the world with Tony, right? Because he's getting lots of backlash. He's, for those of you that don't know, he said something like, and I'm paraphrasing here, but he said something like people are using the Me Too movement as a way to play out victimhood and get a sense of significance for that, which obviously got him into hot water. Right? It really depends on how anger is used. So not only did that get him in hot water, if you've seen the video, he started pushing up in a demonstration, pushing up against a woman who was trying to resist physically, right? And he was just pushing and saying, if you resist, it's just going to make the other person mad. Which, for those of you that have been following the Me Too movement, you can understand how out of context and weird that analogy was in that moment. It got him into really hot water. Like, what do you mean? And she even said, as he was pushing down, well, Chopra talks about being not resisting. And does this mean that we should not protest and we should not do all that? And interestingly enough, I'm a big Tony Robbins fan from way back. I did his programs a long time ago. I haven't done anything in the last 10, 15 years with him, but big Tony fan. But I was watching his level of presence while this whole thing happened and his presence with her. And I had not seen him ever that not present. If anyone's watched his documentary, The Guru, I'm Not Your Guru, it's a great documentary. You see up close how present that man is and how connected to the divine of what's happening in those interventions that he's having. With this woman, you watch it, he's not present. He's not listening to her. He's not feeling her. I'd never seen him do that before. So it was really interesting from a presence standpoint to see that he wasn't really in the room, whether he got triggered by something and just went down his route of this is how I teach this and this is how I do this, caused hot water. And I agree with a lot of the backlash. Like, it's just not okay to be saying things like that and doing things like that, especially when they could be taken out of context. And he's such a big guy. And at the same time, I get where he's coming from, because as soon as you go to victimhood and blame, you've lost all your power and you've lost protection. You're a sitting duck for something else to happen, because what you resist persists. So he was being truthful to a certain degree. And there was many, many times in that video, as you probably saw, that he was saying, I'm not against the Me Too movement. How many times do you say that? I think I've heard him 4 or 5 times say it, but no one's really hearing that. Everyone, not everyone, but the world wants a black and white situation. It wants a black and white situation. People want to support Tony because Tony's awesome, or they want to like throw him under a bus and protest and never go to a training of his again, which is extremely sad to me, because his work is incredible. But a lot of people won't do it because we're looking for who's right, who's wrong, who's black, who's white. And in this situation, it's not understood how anger and resistance can be used to protect yourself. So the Me Too movement is built on, I believe, is built on the protection of amplifying life force around this, so women feel okay to say no, right? It's amplifying the life force. Sometimes anger, sometimes memory that just floods through to be relieved, the vocalization, all of that is very powerful. And we have to do that in order to make it okay for other women to do that and for it to be out. It was a movement mostly built on what I think was life force. And from that life force, major things have happened since that. all sorts of things are coming to the surface. And Tony's right in the sense of if you're using anger to blame and to be the victim and going into this projection mode, you will continue to be the victim. So maybe, the other reason I feel really a lot of compassion for Tony Robbins right now is because he's so well known. And in the moment, God, if you say something that's a little bit off, and I know that he gets what he didn't say. What he did say was a little off, but God, if you're a celebrity and you say something a little off, you're going to pay. So I don't know, maybe some of you disagree with me now and I'm going to pay on Facebook or something in a smaller way, but that's just my 2 cents about it. And I think it's really important for us to not go into black and white thinking, but to see how do we use an energy like the Me Too movement. So, and even someone posts anger makes a victim. I don't agree. I don't agree. I think anger can put people into victimhood. And I believe anger used in the right way can release trauma and life force that heals. So if those two happen in the same world, how do we decipher when we're using it as a victim and when we're using it as life force that is helpful? So 2 words that I want you to write down that is really powerful for this is non-resistance and embodiment. Write those words down, non-resistance and embodiment. Let's talk about non-resistance first, because what you resist persists. If you're in resistance, like got a negative charge to what's happening and you're not allowing what's happening, you'll go into resistance. So when we blame and shame, like the person that said anger is a victim, when it makes a victim, it's because we're blaming. It's because we're pointing the finger. It's because we're projecting out. And that creates resistance. And when you resist something, it sticks to you or it makes somebody else angry. You can't get to resolution. There is a stuck place in your energy. You are not a magnetic pull to that which you want. End of game. So we want to be in non-resistance, but it's an energetic state, right? If someone was talking to me and angry at me and saying, Rachael-Jayne, you shouldn't have said this about what you're saying today or blah, blah, blah. I've got to check in with myself about being in non-resistance to this person. Because as soon as I'm getting in resistance to this person, it's going wonky. And I'm not protecting myself energetically from the anger that's coming to me. Like good Aikido, good martial arts, it's all built on non-resistance, less force, going with it in order to win the battle. That's what I mean, the energetic state. But resistance, and this is where her question was around, you saying we shouldn't protest? Are we saying we should just be in non-resistance to don't resist, so don't speak up? And it sort of came out that looked like that's what he was saying. I don't know if that's what he was saying, but it came out like that. And that's, again, what got him in hot water, because resistance does not mean don't take action. Resistance doesn't mean don't take action. Doesn't mean take no action. Look at Martin Luther King and Gandhi in a non-resistant movement. Were they taking massive action? Yes. But it's what I call right action. When someone's in a state of non-resistance, I'm not going to push back in anger, in blame, I'm going to be present. And you watch a lot of Martin Luther King's speeches, which he is, Dada and I's probably most favorite speaker. He's got a lot of life force that a lot of people would think of anger, an angry speech, but it's not anger. It's life force anger. Do you know what I'm saying? They're really amazing speeches to watch and just feel the difference of that life force anger to blaming. And he was so on, don't blame, don't push back, don't get violent, don't, same with Gandhi. And look what shift occurred. They were taking massive action, massive protest, but it was all about non-resistance. So things could move, their life force could move. And when you're in non-resistance, you then get all your resourcefulness in the present moment. What does that mean? You're smarter. You are wiser. You're in direct connection with the divine insight of what to say next, what to do next, what to let go of. You are in a resourceful state when you're non-resistant, and then you take action, right action, full action, as much action as you possibly can take, because that's what's needed to make a change. We need people to speak out. We need people to make changes. I've just read a Marianne Williamson quote. I think it was just today or yesterday. It was on my Instagram. I probably can't find it quickly, so I won't bother. But it was something like, and she's been talking about this a lot in her tour, there's not more hate than love in this planet. I'm paraphrasing Marianne Williamson. There's not more love than hate. It's just the people who hate have more conviction about it, and there is more action behind it. The people who love can tend to go into non-resistance, but no action. Right? We have to take right action in the energy of non-resistance, but right action, massive action that you know is yours to take, right? And to go for that fully.